From the experience we had in 2019, we can see that the international environment is getting more and more complicated. Some countries use Hong Kong as the pawn against the central government. Then you use also all sorts of measures like sanction and so on. The second thing is you can see that there's foreign interference in Hong Kong, and there are separatism being promoted. You can see the shadow of color revolution in the 2019 the disturbance, the riots. Thirdly is because the rioters and also some people in Hong Kong try to disturb public order and public safety and national security. That is, they cause damage to injury to people, life and properties. They destroy public facilities. They attacked legislative council and try to jeopardize the government's operation. When one country, two system was formulated, the patriots administering Hong Kong was one of the main factors they considered. So it is time that we should induce this into our electoral system. According to the Constitution of PRC, the National People's Congress is responsible for the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR. That is according to Article 31 of the Constitution. Apart from that, in Article 62 of the Constitution, the National People's Congress is entrusted with the power to monitor the implementation of the Constitution, is responsible for setting up the systems in Hong Kong. And the last item is that it should handle all the matters which require the highest organ of power to handle. That would be adequate power for the National People's Congress to take the step as it's taking. And that, of course, Hong Kong's constitutional order comprises both the Constitution and the Basic Law. So what is being done is to amend the Annex 1 and Annex 2 of the Basic Law in order to set up the system, which at the moment is not existing. There's reason the bill for requiring the officials of Hong Kong to take oath to support, to uphold the Basic Law, and also to pledge allegiance to the country, and that set out the conditions for deciding whether somebody is patriot or not. It has a list of things which factors which you must have, and also a list of actions that you should not do. So it is after this 2 months debate, I think everybody knows exactly what patriots mean. If you have patriots taking part in public administration and legislative affairs, then the first thing is they would not do anything to injure the interests of Central People's Government and of the Hong Kong SAR government.
But how should the law define it? How does the provision formulate so there will be clearer and less challengeable enforcement?
I think it's from several aspects. First of all, in the formation of Legislative Council, you put more emphasis on the election committee. The election committee would be more representative of the people because it comes from a wider sector in the society. We had the composition of the first and second term Legislative Council, comprising members elected by the election committee, and each election committee is divided into 4 sectors according to their profession or the role. And so on. So by increasing the number of the election committee, having additional members, so by increasing the number and the members of the election committee, then you will make sure that there will be new elements joining the government that would be patriotic. Now, the election committee is entrusted with additional power. Firstly, in the case of nomination, all members of Legislative Council or candidates of the Legislative Council will have to be vetted by vetted by the election committee. You have to have the nomination before they can run for election. So this is one of the things, and the monitoring of the of people joining the government, whether administrative or legislative, would have to be monitored throughout the term. So it's not just at the time of election that they should be patriotic. Throughout the term of office, they must also be proven to be patriotic. I believe that is the purpose of amending the electoral law in order to reflect this. I think that you're right. The draft, the law has not been published, but the Vice President Wang Chun make an explanation when presenting the draft decision to the NBC, and he clearly set out those principles. I think if you would just refer to his statement, this one part of it would set out the gist of the proposal. It said that the composition of the election committee of the Hong Kong SAR will be revised. They will be given additional power, and that is the concept for the new design, and it would revise and also improve on the size of the election committee. At the moment, you have got 1,200, and then that if you're going to expand it, then certainly the number is going to be increased. And the composition, at the moment there are 4 sectors. I think there will be an additional sector, and the method for election of the election committee. We haven't seen that yet, but it will be seen that from the composition, you'll make sure that those people will be patriots. They will continue to elect the chief executive, but also they have the power to elect a comparatively larger proportion of legislative council members. And also they will have the responsibility for nominating all the members of the candidates, all the candidates for the election of the legislative seats. So it will give the chance for the wider sector of the public to participate in politics, and would also be more representative. All this would have to be revised, and at the same time there will be established a whole vetting system that would not just be for election, but also for the whole term of office. And then that would form a system that is in light of the actual situation of Hong Kong, and also is a electoral system, a democratic electoral system with Hong Kong characteristic. Now that is what it says. So from that we deduce what the amendment will be. I think the National People's Congress works from the system only. It is not dealing with any individuals. See, if somebody who has in the past been doing things which is not in the interest of Hong Kong, but if later on by behavior, by what is spoken, proven that he's changed, and he is really supportive of the Central People's Government and of Hong Kong SAR, then I don't think they will be barred forever from participating in the government. We don't know exactly what the amendment will be. Now, the election committee comprises 4 sectors. First is those in industry and commerce and financial sectors and so on. The second is professionals. The third is religion, cultural, sports, and so on. And the fourth one are politicians, like Legislative Council, NPC delegates, CCP delegates. The distribution of these would be revised. So that, for example, CCP formerly was just representative of them. It doesn't fix the number, and not everybody would become an election committee member. A district council, formerly they had quite a large number, but as you know, in the basic law, it said that they are not political body. On ministerial matters, municipal matters, they should handle local affairs and establishments and so on. So they have not been doing that properly. So whether they should be included in the election committee is a question. We have to see the amendment. But then, of course, there are societies, organizations, and so on, which have in the past been supportive of the government. You can see from what they have done, from the activities, from what they advocate, that they would fulfill the definition of patriots. And I think that if you're going to make this patriots administering Hong Kong, then of course the additional members would be those organizations, representative, and so on. The election of the election committee is a well-established rules. This would be in accordance with at the moment, it's the Chief Executive Election Ordinance. This is not something entirely new.